Hotseat on 933 KFM. I welcome you, our listeners, across this beautiful land, the Pearl of Africa. My name is Patrick Amaran. Tonight we are still in a celebratory mood because, why? Uganda Cranes yesterday came off better, beating 2-0 to Congo Brazzaville after drawing with South Africa away. I think now the Uganda Cranes is bring us the glory once again. Uganda Cranes bring us the glory once again in football. And even though this is not the focus of our discussion tonight, I thought maybe I should just talk about that because, look, we are celebrating and we are thinking this time around, who knows who could be going to AFCON. And my guest this evening, who has made it in the studio after a long while, is the CEO of Great Lake Safaris, Mr. Amos Wekesa himself, is here. Thank you so much, Amos, for once again coming home.
Yeah, man, I've been missing the studio, man. I walk on the streets and people are like, we don't listen to you anymore these days. I said, well, but there are very many competent people in the studio.
But you've seen
led by you, of course.
But you see how we've changed the studio.
Man, it is a very big transformation for those who are listening at monitor offices. From entrance, man, I think you guys have thought right. The place looks good, very good interior, and I think the one who has done the job did a good job.
We are also joined online by Simon Kaheru from Coca-Cola Beverages Africa. Simon, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time. First of all, I want to go football now because I'm still in the mood of discussing football because what they have to win, but also I know you've just come out from organizing a very wonderful marathon, the Rwenzori Marathon. First of all, your take on Uganda Cranes. I hope now we're not going to go back into the business of Chibalo mathematics. If so can beat so and so, maybe we can qualify. Do you think we're on a better path now?
No, I think one of the things that we all have to appreciate is that this country has extreme talent. It lacks organization, that's for sure. And it's always seen by the many opportunities we get that are scattered here and there. And I still believe that maybe private sector should grow, because when private sector grows, that's when actually real sports grows, because private sector is interested in promoting sports as a way of promoting themselves too. Now, if you look at the Uganda Cranes, very few teams have actually come to Uganda and actually beaten Ugandans on the soil here. It's very difficult. Yes. And one of the reasons is very simple, is that Ugandans go out in numbers. To be honest, for me, for a long time, my only team that I support in the world is actually Uganda Cranes. I remember those days I used to go, I would get drums and get my guys I played tennis with, the Makindye Club. We go and just chat and make noise for Uganda Cranes. The only problem was that you would pay for VIP and find everybody scattered there. You have nowhere to struggle. There was no proper management. So we stopped actually going to that place. But I'm always excited to see Uganda Cranes hosting other teams from Africa here. I mean, you can see that yes, even when there was a challenge, especially when Uganda Cranes was playing in South Africa, I think Ugandan players were mesmerized by South African players in the first half. The second half, I think the coach must have told them, guys, I think you are as good as these guys. You saw how well they played. And South Africa actually just sneaked at the last moment to actually be able to draw. And then yesterday was a massive win for Uganda, and beating Congo Brazzaville 2-0. It's a fantastic thing. You could see the mood in the stadium, and you can see that when people play a role, and when 22 guys play, no one cares about your tribe, where you come from, your height. Everybody was celebrating. Even the politicians who are rare.
We forget about our differences.
And we also forget about our differences. They're all sitting in the same place, making noise for the same purpose. And it's also one way. The key thing that you actually see is that so many entrepreneurs come out. If you watch it properly, like before guys entered, people are selling flags, they're selling all the colors, paints, and stuff like that. And those kind of things bring out
opportunities for making money.
Yeah, they bring out the entrepreneurial spirit of a Ugandan. People come from all sides, all corners, and they create all types of things, T-shirts and stuff like that. And the jubilation. And sometimes I always think that it's just because we don't understand. We just don't understand what marketing is all about as a country. But the reality is that if we marketed prior, like now we know, for example, we shall be going to play with South Sudan. South Sudan just played today with South Africa. South Africa won them 3-2. Now we'd be saying, if South Sudan is going to come and play Uganda Cranes here, we make sure that Kenyans know, because they come and have fun. Tanzanians come. That's how countries make money. If you don't have an external business approach, then you're finished. And it's also good for the change of the environment. You just talked about the Rwenzori Marathon. Rwenzori Marathon had its third edition on 24th of August. The first edition, we had 800 runners from 4 countries. The second edition, we had 2,200 runners from 17 countries. This year, we had close to 3,800 runners from 38 countries. And all these guys thought Rwenzori Marathon is probably one of the most well-organized marathons on the continent. But you see, for me, as Amos, we're well invested in Kasese area, including the gentleman has just come here on the boat. We have Elephant Plains, we have Simba Safari Camp, and Kasese has been facing all types of troubles, either mpox or killing or, terrorism, and it's just changed. But it's not just support Kasese by them.
Let me bring in Simon Kaheru, who's standing by online there. Simon, I don't know whether he's a sports enthusiast, but he is. I don't know whether you love football, but I'm sure you do. Your take about the Uganda's win yesterday and this time around, because normally when we're these qualifying matches, we end up going into mathematics, and you see if now Egypt can beat Congo, if now Congo can draw with South Africa, maybe we'll have a window yet. But that Chibaro really makes me mad. But because I just want the straight win, not business of Congo Brazzaville will beat Nigeria, then we have a what? Do you think now we are going past that, perhaps?
If you were to do that Chibaro, then yesterday you would not have been surprised that Uganda beat Congo Brazzaville because of our ranking. We were definitely the better place to win the game. It's just that many times we are worried, we are uncertain of how good we are. Especially those of us who are watching, not those on the pitch. But when it comes to Chibalo, I just love that Chibalo that Amos puts into even sports, because he always links it back to what matters much, much more, which is the economy that therefore enables you to enjoy sports. So I was not just on Sunday, I was listening to him talking about Kasese and the success of that marathon. And we've not had the opportunity to properly applaud you, Amos, for putting that marathon together in such a fantastic way. International standards. Congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And you're very, very correct about yesterday. And I'll tell you that I've not been following this particular thing quite closely. But I looked up and noticed that people were chatting in the different WhatsApp groups about the game. And in the middle of that game, more people were talking about Onana. All the memes that I was seeing were about Onana. I'm thinking, who is this Onana guy? I had to Google Onana. And you can see how very easily, even when we are shining, we should be enjoying a certain level of glory, is something that will very easily take our attention away, even us as Ugandans. So there's a lot that we need to think about around sports, around entertainment, about how it all needs to connect to our day-to-day. The reason is to enjoy, watch it and be motivated, do certain things, but my friend, we must always bring it back to why do we host these things.
Okay. We've been joined in the studio by Dr. Fred Muhumuza. Dr. Fred Muhumuza, an economist, of course, and thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Muhumuza.
It's a pleasure, and football is very big economics.
It is, yes. And I want your take, from the, sports as a business and how it can improve the economy. I was in Western Uganda. I was home a couple of weekends. I kept going there, and I've realized there's an enthusiasm for football that is growing in Poto. You can't believe it. The so-called Masaza Cup. People come in big numbers. Go back 5 years ago. If players went on the pitch to play, they would be playing for alone themselves. But now there's thousands of people. It's a big deal. And I'm thinking if Uganda can get back across all regions and have the enthusiasm for football, then in a way also entrepreneurial skills and your spirit can be rekindled and people can make money. You take Dr. Muhumuza.
Yeah, I think you also have talked of Masaza Cup. Look at who is winning for the Cranes today. These are fellows who came from those kinds of leagues. So you can't just start at the Cranes. You must start there. So what do you have there? And these are big things for us, and people get inspired. Because if now they see Onana, how much money is he earning? Ronaldo, how much money is he earning? How many Ugandans are out there? And we are thinking the only way to get to where you want to be, you must go into school. and we haven't created those options. I remember we were building a high altitude training center in Kapchorwa. Maybe our girl wouldn't have been killed in Kenya because this thing would be here available for her to do her training. But how many others are out there and our system is not fishing them out? I think it is only the likes of Mulindwa who really invest in football and sees all these kinds of options. So we need to broaden up our scope if we are to build our economy. And as I've been discussing with friends, we always in Uganda look at gross domestic product. GDP is really what has the Ugandan economy within its borders generated. Now part of that is MTN money, part of it is Sunbik money is going to be taken out. Now how many Ugandans are making money out there which would be part of the GDP of Germany, but it is going to come into Uganda? That's what you want to be looking at. So now in the world we are talking about gross national income. This is income by Ugandans regardless of where they are. Amos Wekesa here will wait for government to build a road to Windi for him to get value out of his investment. But if he said, let me go and invest in South Africa because their tourism industry is already up there, he will eventually bring the money here. So we need to broaden that scope. And the easiest people you are going to send out there to make you money are footballers and sportsmen. The quickest artists. You look at Mbokoro, the guy who makes his money there, Anne Kansime. You don't need that much investment for Anne Kansime to bring you $1,000, $10,000. So how many Ugandans, if I can send out there some 100,000 Ugandans, who bring back $100,000 per year?
Absolutely.
I'm going to double this economy in a shorter time. Museveni is here struggling to say how do we grow the economy tenfold, and we're thinking we are going to do agriculture here, coffee there, we're even quarreling UCD, and I mean, you can make more money if you had some just to...
Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest this evening have Dr. Fred Muhumuza, Mr. Amos Wekesa, and Mr. Simon Kaheru. And let me again begin with you, Mr. Simon Kaheru, online about how we can leverage on sports to build the economy, cohesion in the country, patriotism. Because when you go to Nambole when Uganda is playing, you see the skill on the pitch, but you also see a people that are united and are only speaking one language of Uganda. And you know, for a moment you feel very proud to be Ugandan. And if we can have all these things in different sports disciplines, it could be good for Uganda, building unity and cohesion, but also, enhancing the economy. You take.
Okay, enhancing the economy, that goes without saying, and of course that's where I focus. But I like the way you say, for a moment.
Yeah, it's because for a moment.
Only for that moment. Yeah, let's use ourselves of the notion that there's a possibility that we can use sports to get rid of conflict and disharmony within our society. That's not going to happen. Let's be very realistic. The reasons for ongoing disharmony, the conflict we see amongst various groups is a societal reason. It's politics, people having different beliefs, and then today, across the world, it's that increased polarization that has been caused by arguments being embedded on either one side or another. We've decreased our tolerance because we feel we know more due to all these technologies and the increased interaction between people. It's a sociological issue. So that one we shouldn't deceive ourselves. And we're not going to be a society that's watching the Uganda Cranes play, She Cranes or any other national team morning till night. We still have to interact other ways. What we have to do is try to bring that sense of unity that makes us love the game, love our flag when it's being pitted against another flag, into what we do elsewhere. And that's a very tall order. Coming to the economy and the economic benefits of sports and entertainment, and I'm happy that gentleman you're sitting with there, Amos, is our number one marketing champion for this country in all aspects, and especially when it comes to sports and tourism. So applause. And he's seated next to another fantastic economist who can always put the logic of numbers and activity together. It is getting people like these into the rooms that make the decisions that are going to turn all these opportunities into, all these potentials into actual opportunities. Sports has a range of benefits, from even the merchandising that you see so many Africans spending on when they're buying Premier League t-shirts, yeah, to the food that gets served, to the earnings of all these sportsmen and sportswomen, is a lot that we can achieve if we turn sports into one of those money earners for this country. Our climate, and I'm happy that Fred, you mentioned the sports center in Kapchoro. Our climate is a climate that can enable us, if we were to focus, to build sports training facilities across the country for many different disciplines, because we have it all in this one country. But unfortunately, we're not thinking about investing in this. We're not thinking about it because we are focused on, unfortunately, wasting money in so many other pursuits that lead to zero.
Okay.
If we don't get this organized in general as a society to harness the benefit, the possibilities from things like sports, entertainment, and agriculture, we're not going to move.
Okay, let me come back. Amos, just August this last month, you tested on how a sports activity can increase money in a local economy. For example, Kasese and Fort Porto and Rubirizi and all those places that are surrounding Rwenzori when you're having the Rwenzori Marathon. How do you ensure that you have more numbers come and then a lot of money is left in the local economy that's going to benefit the local people?
Well, the thing is that for us, Rwenzori Marathon was an idea born. But first of all, Simon for always being my support, but he's very, very, very clever man, you know that. And of course, even before we went into Simon speaking, Doctor was also really cutting edge knowledge on what's happening Africa-wise, which was good. Now, for me, the key thing was the setup of Rwenzori Marathon was an idea born because of Kili Marathon. I was a tour guide in 1999, 98. I knew how terrible Moshi used to look like in 1999 and Arusha. 23 years ago, Kili Marathon was born. And Kili Marathon put a lot of attention on Tanzania, but also put a lot of attention on Kilimanjaro itself. I don't know, we know that Kilimanjaro has the highest point on the continent, but not the highest block. It's also a walking mountain. Now, Uganda has mountains called the Rwenzori Ranges. There are 16 mountains that form the Rwenzori Ranges, 4 of which are snow-capped, 5 among the top 10 highest points on the continent. That's how wonderful that mountain is. It's 120 kilometers long, and in Ugandan side, it's about 43 kilometers wide, but it's bigger than that. There's so many animals and plants that are endemic to that. There are water plants. It's the most technical mountain on the continent. And when you say a real mountain for mountaineering, people are now starting to discover that Rwenzori is a place where you go to and practice for going to the Himalayas. Because you go up and down. It's proper. It's bogs. It's a very serious mountain. Now, Kilimanjaro right now gets about 65,000 tourists a year. An average spend of each tourist is about $5,000. So over $300 million are actually earned in the economies of Arusha and Moshi because of Kilimanjaro existence. I don't know whether you know, that's not even a big money. The real money comes from places like Serengeti. See, we're borrowing about $500 million or $600 million to do our roads. That's what 50%, over 50% of that would be raised by Kili, if our Rwenzori if we were serious. But we don't think business, we think borrowing. A lot of Ugandans think that when you borrow, you're actually earning, which is wrong. Now, when you see the Rwenzoris and see the level of poverty that existed, the negative impact that the negative pronunciations have had on Kasese Fort Porto in terms of disease, terrorism, I can tell even as our businesses had gone down, and I thought, well, if Kasese goes down, and Kasese, by the way, Kasese and Fort Porto are in the middle of our future as a country. Why? Because they connect, especially for the tourism bit, they connect the northern circuit with the southern circuit. So you've got key depots of this world, you've got Mason Falls National Park, you've got Queen Elizabeth National Park, but also that area hosts over some of the top 7 attractions on this country. The Rwenzoris themselves, Queen Elizabeth National Park, the World Capital of Primates in Chivale, Semliki National Park, Semliki Game Reserve. You have a lot of opportunities in the same area. That area alone could actually give us our national budgets if we were a very serious group of people. Now, for me, I think that when we first had 800 people ran in Kasese with a few guys coming to support them. It was a shock to Kasese. They ran out of food, supermarkets. If Fort Portal was not closed, Kasese would have actually probably not fed 50% of the people that arrived. Kasese then prepared in 2022. They prepared for about 1,500. They still ran out of food because over 2,000 runners that came. All accommodations were taken up. Then last year we brought in researchers to actually quantify, and had told Minister of Finance people to come and see what it means so that they can support such efforts across the country. But unfortunately, none of them came to actually, they didn't take me seriously, to actually understand how this can actually be able to be multiplied. I don't know. Whether I was not just, I don't know, these things don't make sense. I don't know. But anyway, what actually happened was they did research on how much each individual that came to Kasese spent. So we're about 2,200 runners from 17 countries, but there are also close to 130,000 people that either were people from Kasese or other parts of the country that came to watch those runners. And the research showed that about 15 billion shillings were spent in the economy of Kasese, Fort Portal, Bundibujo, Ishaka, those places, and Bushenyi, because those accommodations were taken on. And you also know very well, just before we entered the studio, he said, Fort Portal, you would think that the marathon was in Fort Portal this time. But Kasese was full.
Okay, let me come back to Dr. Fred Muhumuza on the issue of the sports industry. And when you see in Europe, for example, the United Kingdom, the Premier League is something very big. It's a lot of money is out of that Premier League, and most of quite a number of Africans are playing in the Premier League. I have seen an attempt in the Kabaka, in Uganda, the Masaza Cup. I've seen it in Toro and Bunyoro. And in Bunyoro now, I think the graders are rolling. They're trying to build a new stadium in Hoima, which is a good thing. So it's about time that Uganda invested more in sports, because we have seen somewhere else that there are dividends when you invest in it.
That's certainly there, but as you've said, you have the infrastructure. Today we are making some money out of Zimbabwe and Cameroon because of the infrastructure.
They're coming to play here.
They are playing here, even I think as we speak. Onana is here, so everybody is Googling and making some money. But who's making money? It's possibly Google out there, and Zuckerberg is earning some money out of people trying to follow up Onana. But at least Nambole has put us there because they have brought these big ones. So you begin to say one strategy is you do the necessary infrastructure. I'm still looking at when are we going to host a golf tournament of some big guys. Do you have such infrastructure somewhere? Because these golf tournaments and tennis and they move around the globe, and you can make money out of those. So besides building your own players and actors, artists, dramatists, all sorts of fellows, and we have noticed COVID taught us that this creative industry is very big. The president has even created somebody to advise him on that. So where is our strategy? Because that's what the Europeans did. You don't want to say the premiership is simply there. Even the way they tax it is different to attract those games to be there. And the way they have handled it as Europeans. And they will make sure they make partnerships with the big marketing companies, the DSTVs of this world, are buying games the other side. Somebody has put in money, private sector, but they are really leveraging to say, I'm going to get all the rights on the premiership. I'm going to get all the rights, but I'm going to put in 17 billion over the next 3 years. So government may not have the money, but can you package this with the private sector so that Amos Wekes and his teams can say one of the things we are going to champion here is sports. We will pre-finance it, but we'll have all the rights. So he diversifies his income from tourism into these other things, and doesn't have to be Amos alone. He has peers and partners across the globe, so people who can bring in the money. Today I was following up the case of Apple. Apple has been ordered to pay $14 billion of unpaid taxes to Ireland.
Wow.
The case has been dragging on for a long time. Now, Ireland gave them favors, and the European Union have felt those favors were not available for similar companies. So you gave Apple an advantage that others did not have. So you cheated on taxes. Now, Ireland is not ready to collect the money, the 14 billion, because for it is saying, I want to offer an opportunity for big companies to come and invest here.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, let's look into, because you can do all those things, but if you have a very sorry city is in a sorry state, for example, if you have a city that's in a sorry state like Kampala, really. I wonder, you who's always entertaining guests coming from the UK and the United States, and Kampala is like the door of your country, and here they enter, and what they see is actually not very good. So, but now we understand government has launched 330-kilometer Kampala Metropolitan Area Roads project worth $608 million. Probably that will be the game changer. We'll be right back.
KFM's Hotseat covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m.
Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hotseat. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guest in the studio, I have Dr. Fred Muhumza, and also I have Mr. Amos Wekesa. Now, gentlemen, I want us to change gears and look into something different, and that is about the road project taking place in Kampala, because today the government has launched the first phase of the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Area Urban Development Project, which will cover the development of 140 kilometers. Eventually, they'll go to over 300 kilometers within Kampala and the surrounding areas, and that will cost about $608 million. That's a good thing happening, Amos, because I can imagine when you are bringing in your guests, you must be sometimes, it must be very hard for you sometimes to explain the status of your city. But you must be happy now. Maybe the city is going to change.
It's first of all, a country is projected by its city. When a city is dead, that country is actually dead. When somebody comes to Kampala, you don't need you don't need to actually go further to actually understand the state of a country. When you go to New York, you understand the state of America. When you go to those cities I've created, LA, whatever it is, those cities actually project what a country is all about. If you go to London, it shows you what the UK is all about. So Kampala has been such a great shame to the country. I mean, I drive 17 kilometers to go to my office, but you hardly have 10 kilometers. You had to have 7 or 5 kilometers
That are
paved. It's a sad story, very, very sad story. If you're having an office like us, where you have to pass Luzira now, it's such a sad story. And it's not that they're trying to put efforts to work, but people are not actually working sometimes. You just go there, they block the roads, there's no communication, you're actually on your own. There's no understanding that every single hour that is lost in the traffic, it affects our economy. Because I know the last statistics, I think it was 2017, where they said Uganda was losing close to $700 million on time wasted in traffic jam. And that's very sad. That's very sad that we're not very deep in understanding how an economy goes and begs and becomes useless when you actually don't own what they call essential sectors that Doctor was talking about earlier on. So for us, it's a good effort in terms of trying to actually improve the roads of Kampala. It's a commendable effort. But also I would ask government to understand that borrowing is not the only solution this country can have. While we borrow for the roads, we should be able to borrow to position the country to earn money on its own. And good examples we've been talking about, like sports, we've been talking about tourism, putting things that can actually help the country, such that you remove that money and then reinvest in the country.
Okay, let me bring in here the chairman, East Africa Business Council, Uganda chapter. Of course, Simon Kaeru. I suppose you're still with us. I suppose you're still with us, Simon.
Yes, I'm serious.
So yes, you must be feeling a bit of relief, I'm sure, or you're happy to understand that the government is now investing, with the help of World Bank, $608 million, beginning with 140 kilometers of Kampala to pave them and make them look better, because we've been in a sorry state. Your take about our road infrastructure and what that says about us as a country?
Not what it says about us as a country as such, Patrick, but my major concern is the thing of the roads will look better. Of course, it's good for the potholes to go, however briefly, we know they'll be gone for, but what's more important...
They'll go very briefly, right?
Unfortunately, they'll go briefly. I mean, I'm not being pessimistic, but the fact of the matter is, if we don't first deal with the underneath, what is our drainage system like? What is our other infrastructure that impinges on the roads? Like, how many people are we planning for? What is the rest of the urban plan going to look like? And just on this very program, 3 weeks ago, we spoke about the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Plan that we're supposed to comment on. If we spend all that money building brand new roads in Kampala, but we allow all manner of structures to come up around those roads without planning those, of course the roads are going to go. Of course the roads will not have been built for a city that's going to function in a certain way. If we also do not reorganize and regazette the way the city is put together, there's no way we are going to use those roads, okay, in a non-congested manner. Many times roads are constructed and before long you have banks of vendors operating on those very same pavements. What does that do? It pushes people into the pavement, the road. That's where they start walking instead of walking on the pavement. That then squeezes traffic into the center of the road. The activities of people on those pavements, I mean, it's a cycle that we just need to get right by understanding that it's an ecosystem. Infrastructure is an ecosystem that needs to be handled, approached from that point of view. We don't patch the road here and then try to patch another thing over there. It needs to be done wholesome in order for it to work long-term and sensible.
All right.
And again, I'm not being pessimistic, I'm just being realistic and hoping that indeed this project is going to be done the right way for the long term.
All right, Mr. Simon Kaheru, Chairman, East Africa Business Council, Uganda chapter. I understand there's another sentiment awaiting you, and for that matter, from here we say Kwaheru to you. We say Kwaheru to Kaheru.
Kwaheri Simon.
Kwaheru Kaheru.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. So yes, let me come back to the economist here, and of course we're losing millions of dollars, almost $700 million. Because of work that is not done or delayed because of road infrastructure. I don't know why it took this long, or it's still taking long, for government to realize that we really need to work on the city, because the city also projects a certain image. Is it because of the politics involved? I mean, even if I sort it and make it better, after all, I'm not going to get political capital out of it.
This loan, actually, you need to know, was approved years ago.
This money here.
This money. That's why it can still come through even when we're still under sanctions of the anti-homosexuality. Because they say that is for new projects. So the mere fact that this came through, it means it was much before that time. But it has taken us this long to do our planning. That's one area we need to sort out. You also want to look under the scene and say...
meanwhile, it has been picking interest, right?
With disbursements and what is not disbursed, all those things have been there. But the whole point is, whether it picks interest or not, the roads should have been better much earlier, because by the time we processed this loan through the World Bank for it to be approved, and years have passed, so the roads were continuing to deteriorate. Now you may find even the design that had been made, now the roads have gotten even more worse off than when we asked for the loan. So we may now get into cost overruns, because you have to do more than you had planned to do if you had taken on the roads the way they were. Now that already speaks to a lot of other things, that every time you see roads deteriorating, like Kitezi fell on us, where are the institutional weaknesses? Because this is a symptom of something else that is not working well. Where is your planning? You cannot keep renovating your roads every time you need to renovate them and say loan. When we borrowed to do these roads, we were saying the economy is going to grow, the Ukesas will make more money, we will tax them and do the road maintenance. Now we are back to borrowing. So how come this investment cannot sustain itself? You want to get back and say, what am I using the money I borrow? Most of us, when you do such an investment, you have what accountants will call a depreciation allowance. You put money aside to say, by the time this asset is gone, I will be able to replace it using whatever business it has done for me. So we want to go back and say, if every time we need to do the roads in Kampala, it has to be a loan. What are these investments doing? What is it that we're not doing well, that the economy can grow? The URA collections would be the ones to maintain these particular roads. That's one thing you want to be looking into. We are going to do it. And of course, the motor vehicles in town are too many. So you don't want to forget the question of mass transport systems. When all that baggage of traffic, the roads will flow. So we need a bigger integrated transport system.
Mr. Wekasa, Fred is also bringing another issue. Yes, you can fix the roads, but if we don't have an efficient public transport system for Kampala, we still have a mess in our city.
Yeah, he's right. I think he's actually focusing on planning. As a country, I sometimes, maybe because of our political systems, that people only think in terms of short term, 2 years, 5 years, that's all they think about. But you see, I've always said it on this radio. You just imagine if the English did not think about the underground train in the 18th centuries, what would have happened to London today?
And their red buses.
And
already more of.
Absolutely. And London was not growing as fast as Uganda is growing. Today, we're producing at least between 1.3 to 1.5 million Ugandans every single year. What this simply means is that in the next 50 years, if we don't have anybody who has a long-term thinking to life, even our political, I think even the people who are listening, when you think about your LC1, you should elect him based on what he's thinking in that direction. Your president, your MP, whoever you're electing must have a long-term thinking for the country in order for us to survive. Now, that said, working on the roads, like you say, it's very good. It's an extremely very good idea. Of course, the challenge then is you're working on the road using what resources? If they're borrowed resources, already the country is... You know that almost I think 70. I don't know how much of the money the Uganda Revenue Authority corrects, which is the projection for 2024-2025 is about 31 trillion. Now, if we collect 25 trillion, and yet our budget has gone to 72 trillion, moved from 49.2 or something like that. It means that you might end up with having almost 80-90% of the money you collect locally going into debt repayment. Now you're borrowing more money, which makes it harder for the economy. And yet, the little money that we have is being eaten away by the population that is being born, or the young population. You know, they say about 1 million Ugandans turn 18 years every single year. That's what they're saying. And yet you have, so it's a matter of thinking. Also the idea of maintenance. While we do the roads, it's very difficult for us to think about maintenance. I don't know, during the Rwenzori Marathon, the biggest complaint, while it was a good marathon, Kasese had extremely nice roads. The road to Mubende is a road everyone complained. I remember guys arriving for Kasese and actually opting to look for flights, but then the flights were also too busy. There were too few planes to take Ugandans from Kasese to what. But that's how bad it was. But these roads I've been plowing that road since I don't know when.
Actually, as we speak right now, even the graders are not on the road, have been removed.
Yeah, but
after messing up the road, and the graders have been parked because I think there's no money to pay them.
But that's the thing. That's the idea. And then we also talk about creation of roads. He's talked about forming things like the trams. Why should a train from Kampala not be running every day to Bwegere? It's actually very good thinking. We should also have a train running to Mpigi. We should have trams within the city, such that you could decongest the city. But the other thing is also, if you have formed a number of cities, you have formed Fort Portal City. So far, there is no evidence that Fort Portal is actually being planned for as a city, Mbale City. There's no plan, because one of the reasons why a lot of people are coming to one of the reasons we have a lot of high rural-urban migration is because there are no opportunities elsewhere. So people are coming to Kampala. When people come to a city, they look for four things. They look for security, they look for education, they look for health, and they look for, what's the other?
Business opportunity.
Yeah, business survival. There are four things that people look for. Now, if you take those four things, and by the way, to develop a city is a very simple thing. To develop a city, work on the roads, provide good hospitals, provide good schools, and look at the environment and the opportunities available in the environment. And just like I said, I had spoken to people of finance and said, guys, if you come to Fort Kasese and you see how this marathon, for example, is affecting positively these people, and then you start thinking, what else can be done in the north? What can be done in the east? Such that opportunities also flow in those areas. So you reduce the rural-urban migration, But that thinking is basically not there.
So now, you brought us a new perspective of public transport system, which is not there. But with our roads and, can they expand them? Can they, you talked about the trams. Did you think we can introduce those? And even if the train worked from Kampala 3 or 4 times from Mukono to Kampala, when they reach at the train station here in Kampala, How are the people evacuated from Kampala to wherever they are going? From the city center, if they were going to Wandega, or they are going to Ntinda, or they are going to Nakurabi, how do they get there? Because assuming you bring 5,000 people by train and put them there at the train railway station, how do they get from there?
That's why we call it an integrated transport system. Because remember, to come to the train, a border is bringing them, but now that border and taxi is ending there in where there is a train station. There are places in New York and Washington where even there is a parking where the train starts, because people come with their cars, but they are 40 kilometers out of Washington. Now their housing is cheap. They come and park their cars there, get on the train and come to Washington, work, and then go back and pick their cars and go away. So you want to be looking at that integrated system, that some people would actually be sleeping in Bombo, they will be sleeping in Impigi. Now there you put low cost income housing, but it takes them 1 hour to get into Kampala. Amos Wekesa here sleeping in Namgongo takes 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So literally people will go there.
Yeah.
But then as you've said, how do I get them out? Now, railway station will not be the end. Railway station is just a junction. But those who get there will be another tram getting onto Bombo Road to take them to Kawempe, where they work. These ones are going to Minyonyo, where they work. And now would have taken advantage of these roads. Because remember, tram, if you don't want to break people's buildings and you don't want to go underground, you design it along the same road. 2 wagons or 3 wagons. So now this upgrading of these roads would have given us already an advantage to say, we are doing the roads in Kampala. Along with them in the middle would be a rail track line for the trams. And as he's saying, we may not yet be there, but in London, when did they build the underground? Many years back.
Yeah.
So
this was an opportunity we are missing.
Construction design is providing an opportunity that we are not utilizing.
We are not utilizing because there is no problem. The tram being vehicles are behind it and vehicles are in front of it, but the tram has 500 people in it, and now the taxis have also vanished because you would require 100 taxis to move those same people. So who is going to be planning that futuristic to say when this economy grows tenfold and it is 500 billion? Do you know what activity will be here? Are you planning for that activity to be moving in terms of transport, in terms of medical services, in terms of school systems, in terms of health? What investment are they doing in Mukono as we speak? Nigeria, where is a big hospital? A lot of people are sleeping there. You'll be having an equivalent of Kirudo or Kawempe in that area to address all those fellows. Because most of them are actually coming to Mulago for treatment. They wouldn't be on your roads if they had that service the other side.
All right.
So that integrated planning, I think, needs to come through. So we shouldn't only be celebrating the transport roads, but what are the other services? People don't just move.
The move Conhesion. Gentlemen, what's going to be, each one of you, 1 minute, your parting shot, Amos?
Yeah, I think the thing is that sometimes we talk about these things, but I think leaders must be convicted about the future of our own country. And just like us as a population, we must also, of course, I think some of the leaders we have must be led. I always tell people that what's happening, for example, in many parts of the countries like Assese, see the population is doing things and the leaders are now starting to follow. Now, if the leaders are not doing something, maybe there's a way we should try and do things such that maybe leaders follow. But we must all be convicted, knowing that we have a great country that could, if well planned, this country can make us survive and extremely be happy in it. Dr.
Muhumuza, parting shot.
Onana is playing right now as we speak in Nambole, but whatever he's doing on the pitch, there is a lot of work he did before the game started. So what is Uganda doing for the game that's going to be played in 2030 to 2040? Thank you.
Dr. Fred Muhumuza, Mr. Amos Wekesa, and Mr. Simon Kairo. Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for your submission, for the time you've given us. But most of all, you, the listener, I want to thank you for the privilege of your company. Good night and God bless Uganda.
Thank you.